Hot Frosty might be the most disappointing movie I've seen this year, so far. Not only is the idea for this movie completely out of left field, but they've somehow managed to make a love story between a human woman and a snowman come to life incredibly mundane. On top of all that, at the end of the movie, I was just stuck scratching my head trying to piece together the message that the movie was trying to get across. If I'm being honest, I'm still struggling with that, so let me know what you think in the comments, but without further ado, let's get into the recap. We open on a classic Frosty top hat blowing through the wind, while the narrator boldly claims that people have been telling stories about snowmen coming to life since the dawn of time. As far as I can tell, the song Frosty the Snowman was the first mention of snowmen coming to life, and that song was put out in 1950. Okay, well that's not technically true. The first mention of a living snowman comes from Germany in 1944. I know, not a good time to be in Germany. But the snowman in that story just gets attacked by animals until he melts to death in the summer. Me personally, I wouldn't call 80 years since the dawn of time, but I digress. The narrator finishes by saying this.
But those fairy tales have never been told like this.
Oh hell yeah, let's get crazy. Oh. She's just asleep in a white neighborhood? Here we're introduced to Lacey Chabert's character, Kathy, who I believe is also canonically Gretchen Weiners from Mean Girls. You'll see why I think that in a couple minutes, but just know, I think they're the same person. Now the movie wants to paint a picture of Gretchen's life in classic TV/Hallmark movie fashion. It's Christmas in a small town, and she's the only one without any decorations up. Her bedroom is a mess, and her house is in disrepair. If you've seen one of these movies before, you'd probably bet your life that she does something despicable, like, I don't know, live alone or care about her job. Well, you'd be right about that, because as Gretchen leaves the house for the day, we pan across the face of a man who is deader than dead. Now, the horrible job that Gretchen is making a mistake to care about is running her own diner called Kathy's Cafe. I know her name is Gretchen, but I guess in witness protection, this is her name. When she arrives, she has a bit of banter with her chef Isaac and greets all of the customers, but shortly after she arrives at the diner, she goes across the street to deliver some food to Mel and Theo, who run the thrift shop, I guess, called Reclaimed Rags. Now, the thing to know about Mel and Theo, but Mel especially, is that they want Gretchen to get laid. Bad. The first thing Mel asks Gretchen whenever she delivers her free food from the diner she's running is how are things going outside of running the diner, aka have you found a man like you're supposed to yet? She then launches into a story about how her mom wanted her to get laid when she was younger, so she forced her out into the cold to go meet a husband. This conversation is followed by the weakest plot inciting incident in cinema history that has to be seen to be believed.
Bundled up in my favorite red scarf, went down to the local pub, met the man of my dreams that very night.
After this story, she has her husband fetch a scarf that is similar to the scarf that she wore the night she met him. That's right, it's not the same scarf that she wore the night she met her husband that's, I don't know, somehow imbued with the power of their love that allows her to find her own true love. It's not that. It's just a scarf that happens to look sort of similar to the one that she wore that night. Spoiler alert. Somehow, that is enough magic to bring a snowman fully to life. Mel finishes her speech by saying,
Good things come to you when you're out in the cold, Kathy.
which I guess is the movie's first feeble attempt at establishing a theme, although it doesn't really work because that sentence is just not true. Being out in the cold is like crazy dangerous, and if you live in the north, or I guess way down south of the equator, you probably know to avoid being outside as much as possible when the winter gets real bad. As a thematic statement, I'd say putting yourself out there is sometimes a good thing, is mildly explored in this movie, and I guess it is true. But as a regular statement, it makes zero sense. 0 out of 10. Regardless, Gretchen Weiners reluctantly takes the scarf and walks back out into the town square, where she walks through the Hope Springs Snow Sculpture Contest grounds. It's here that she finds the Hot Frosty next to some real uggos. Kind of like this thing that I picked up at the gas station today. I guess he's gonna stay in the setup back here for this video, but yeah. I don't know, just felt bad for him, can't tell you why. She leaves the scarf that she was just gifted around the neck of the hot snowman, and then takes a photo of him and leaves. But before we get to the magic, I just want to talk some more about some of these sculptures, this one in particular. First of all, this town-wide sculpture contest seems to be held in the middle of the town's busiest thoroughfare, so that's super safe. Second, these sculptures don't look anything like snow to me. They look like they're made of styrofoam, and the people in the establishing shots from earlier are like low-key pushing them around on accident, or maybe the wind is moving them. but they're definitely not made of snow. The biggest issue I have with these sculptures, though, is that even though this has been billed as a town-wide, family-centered event, someone has very clearly taken an extraordinary amount of time to render each rippling muscle and every millimeter of this man's nipples. I mean, this thing is done in excruciating detail. Did not one person who was there with their kids stop them and say, yo, do you want to chill out on carving that snowman's ass crack? Bruh. My kids are starting to ask some uncomfortable questions about your sculpture. Also, is your tongue really the best way to be carving the snowman? But to be fair to the artist, when the snowman is brought to life via a zoom in on his crotch, he is fucking ripped. So ripped it's alarming. This man spawns in like a caveman, with nothing but a scarf to keep this movie from being X-rated. And as soon as he comes to life, he goes on a rampage through this quaint little town that will set in motion what I'll generously call the plot of this movie. He flashes an elderly couple.
Hi there! Oh!
Somehow smashes through a shop window glass. And third, he ends up stealing clothes from Mel and Theo's reclaimed rags store. After all this, apparently he just hangs out in the town square overnight, because when Gretchen comes in for work the next day at the diner, he's just there, mumbling and shouting to the other snowmen about how he came to life. For some reason, Gretchen Weiners approaches this strange man that she's never seen around town before.
I can talk. I love talking. It's amazing. But if it can happen to me, it can happen to you.
Excuse me.
And the first thing he says to her is, "It's you. Look at what happened to me."
Hi, it's you. Look what happened. Look what happened to me.
Somehow after hearing this, she continues this interaction, I guess because he's hot. He goes on to tell her about how he used to be a snowman and how he's never eaten food before, and she still goes ahead and invites him into her diner, where the chef tells her to call the police on this man for infringing on Elf's copyright.
Your friend's eating the jellies.
Thank you.
Now, Gretchen doesn't want to call the police because apparently, in this town, the sheriff is prone to overreacting, which is a troubling thing to hear about a police officer. Well, let's not think about that too hard right now, because in the next scene we find out that the police force in this town is made up of Doug Judy and Detective Charles Boyle. Stellar actors aside, the way that the movie treats these police officers is so bizarre to me, and it starts here with these two shop owners who live in a very peaceful town, mind you, totally unconcerned about property damage and theft that has occurred in their establishment last night.
I'm going to establish a task force. We are going to find the perpetrator.
Oh, no, don't do all that. It'll be fine.
I've been meaning to get new galoshes anyway.
They seem committed to not being upset by any of this, just so that they can make the sheriff look crazy for wanting to catch the guy. Doug Judy's arc in this one is the one that I struggle to understand the most, which is saying something in this movie. But it seems to me that the movie wants to say that this character is more concerned with the letter of the law and keeping a clean town record rather than actually keeping the people of the town safe. Not only do I not think that those things are mutually exclusive, I don't think the movie does a great job of arguing that point because this snowman has committed two pretty serious crimes. They may be confusing as characters, but Craig Robinson and Joe De La Truglio are very good comedic actors. This whole carousel of aviators here just so the sheriff can pull them off right before he says something impactful is such a good bit. Okay, now that we've met most of the principal cast, it might alarm you to know that we're only 15 minutes into the movie at this point, but I promise the plot gets way simpler after this point. We're essentially going to go back and forth between Gretchen Weiners and the snowman falling in love, and these two police officers getting more and more suspicious of the snowman for the crimes that he committed. We'll check back in with the cops from time to time, because honestly they're not in this movie that much, but for now let's get back to the main characters. Now Gretchen/Kathy decides to call the hot snowman Jack, because that's what it says on the jumpsuit he's wearing. She'll continue with this even after she finds out that he stole it, but whatever. Now, she's in the middle of accusing him of stalking her when he starts to freak out because it's too hot in the diner all of a sudden. Again, for some reason, she reaches out to touch this man and feels that his skin is ice cold. Pretty sexy, right, huh? Super cold hands on your skin? But because of the nonsense with the sweating and the super cold skin, she forgets that she was just accusing him of stalking her and takes him to the doctor instead. When the doctor walks in, she immediately throws all professionalism out the window by being overcome with lust over this baby man who is swinging his feet like a toddler from the table.
So what's the... Oh. Who's your friend?
Now the doctor tries to check Jack's temperature twice because both times the thermometer reads below 30 degrees, and she does notice that he's sweating. But that's about as far as her medical training will carry her, apparently, because when Kathy jokingly suggests that he might be melting, she just agrees with her.
Oh, maybe he's melting. I was kidding. You cannot be serious. This is everything about Christmas. Santa, elves, flying reindeer. The scientist in me knows they shouldn't exist. But wouldn't the world be a little bit better if they did?
This doctor throws her foundations in medicine and science out the window just because wouldn't the world be nicer if magic was real? Absolutely wild stuff, but not as crazy as what happens next. The doctor offers to keep Jack with her for observation before he says that he'd rather stay with Kathy/Gretchen. I'm just going to call her Gretchen Weiners for this in the movie, so just adjust in your head accordingly. But he says he'd rather stay with her because he trusts her. Now, of course, that's unbelievable. They met like 30 minutes ago, I guess, in real time. But he says it's because he's basically known her all his life because she was the one who put the scarf that animated him on him.
Because you put the scarf on me. And I'm pretty sure that's what's keeping me alive. So technically, I've known you for my entire life.
And that's where another big problem I have with this movie rears its ugly head. We all came here to watch the snowman get down with Gretchen Weiners, right? I mean, that's like the whole point of the movie. That's why they called it Hot Frosty. That's what we're all here for. That would be fine. I mean, it would still be stupid, but it would be fine if they hadn't decided to make Jack act like a toddler for most of the movie. The fact that Jack says things like, "I've known you my entire life," and has to be talked down from repeatedly shouting "I love you" at Gretchen when he clearly has no idea what that means, makes it impossible to root for any romance between the two of them for the entire movie. I mean, the man is literally pouting because he wants to stay at Kathy's house and is coloring in a snowman at the doctor's office. Whatever, if you wanted to make a hot, sexy snowman film, this doesn't make any sense to me, but it continues to come up throughout the movie, so I'll try and point it out when I see it. Anyways, she brings him back to her house for some reason and tells him to just sit there and watch TV while she figures stuff out, which somehow is going to be crucial to the plot of this movie. Now, when they turn on the TV, they see Lindsay Lohan starring in a separate Netflix Christmas movie, to which Gretchen Weiners remarks, "Hey, I went to high school with a girl who looks like that."
Who I am. I know who I am.
That is so funny. That looks just like a girl I went to high school with.
That's not only confirmation that this is the Gretchen Weiners that is, I don't know, in witness protection or something, but it also is a troubling sign for the movie because this throwaway line was in the trailer. Like, that's how little this movie has to offer outside of, I don't know, whatever that was. Either way, she just leaves Jack there and implores him not to rob her blind while she returns to work at the diner. While there, the police come in and ask her to let them know if she sees anyone from out of town or anyone who's acting suspiciously.
Whoever did this must be new in town. So if you ladies see any strangers, do the right thing. Report them to my office ASAP.
They provide details about the crime spree that now we and Gretchen know Jack went on last night. You would think that upon hearing the stranger that she has holed up in her house right now has committed an act of breaking and entering and also public indecency, she would tell the police right then and there about it. But she doesn't do that. What she does first is go straight home without telling anyone what's going on. And the first thing she sees is Jack advancing upon her with the rolling pin, ready to kill her.
Are you here? That was very, very, very scary.
Even still, she just calmly asks Jack if he committed those crimes, to which he replies, yes, he did. Then he asks if she's mad at him, you know, like a child. But she's not mad, of course, because he's her little good boy, one, and two, because he's made her eggnog and pizza after watching YouTube tutorials all day, I guess. And I guess this would be a good opportunity for their romance to blossom if he hadn't also spent the day looking through her late husband's medical records. That, of course, means the scene instead plays out like this.
What's cancer?
Jack, it's not a nice thing that happens to some people.
I can't believe this. Mommy, what's cancer? And then she explains it to him like he's a baby because he is for some reason. I just can't believe that they want us to want these two to be together and yet they made him a literal child. But whatever, I guess. That's their decision. Gretchen begins to pour her life story out about how her house is in disrepair because that's what Paul used to do, is fix the house. And since then, everything in her life has been falling apart.
That's why it's fallen apart since he's been gone, but, you know, like everything else.
To which this sexy hunk of a snowman replies,
Well, hopefully this pizza doesn't fall apart.
awesome, man. Way to read the room. Boring. Let's get back to my thing. Remember when I made pizza? But it's okay. She likes it, I guess. They then share the most eye-roll inducing accidental hand touch in cinema history whenever they go to reach for the pizza cutter at the same time, before watching TV together for the rest of the night. As the scene ends, he asks her what he should do tomorrow, to which she replies, just keep watching TV, I don't know what to do with you, why are you my problem? But as she goes up to bed, the TV begins playing home repair tutorials, which gives him an idea. Cut to this man on the roof of her house fixing the leaks whenever an old woman gets so horned up with the sight of him that she crashes her car. What ensues is the wildest scene in this movie by far. I mean, compared to everything else that happens in this movie, this is basically softcore porn. I'll play as much as I can for you, but just know that there is a whole lot of sexual innuendo involved in her getting her car unstuck with his help.
You want me to get behind you and push?
Huh? Yeah. Yes.
You ready for me?
I'm ready.
Here I go.
Okay. Yeah.
How's that?
Oh, it's working.
Okay, great. Pretty good.
Oh, if the girls could see me now.
Absolutely out of pocket. Super out of place in this movie. But she's not done yet. Before she goes, she grand grooms Jack and says that she's known Kathy all of her life, and that anyone welcome in Kathy's house is welcome in hers. So she manages to lure him back over to her house, and then this group of older women just creep on him while he does repairs, before they drop him off at Kathy's diner. While he's there, the police re-enter the movie, and here's how that scene goes. Then Gretchen hurries Jack out and scolds him for leaving the house, as if he's her child, you know? But during the dressing down, Jack makes some pretty valid points, saying that maybe he should go to jail if he committed those crimes. And to that, I say, yeah, probably. Look, I'm against police overreach as much as the next guy, but this movie has yet to provide me a single reason to believe that Doug Judy is acting extrajudicially here, other than the fact that we're not supposed to want Jack to get caught because he's hot. Anyway, Jack also makes it known that he's been roped into some unpaid labor at the middle school the next day, but Gretchen forbids him from going for obvious reasons. So naturally, Jack goes to his room to pout, you know, like a child, before Gretchen notices all the repairs he did on the house and goes to thank him. Jack likens his situation, snowmanism, to that of Gretchen's husband, cancer, saying that he doesn't know how much time he has left and he wants to make the most of it. I suppose that's true for all of us, right? But one of the many failings of the movie is that it never really gives us a reason for Jack to believe that he's on borrowed time. There's no countdown to Christmas when the magic will wear off or some unseasonable warm front that will wipe him off the face of the earth. He just carries around this sense of impending doom for no other reason than, I guess, to just guilt Gretchen into letting him do whatever he wants. But what do I know? Gretchen relents and lets him go to the middle school to help out, even though just days ago he attempted to undress in front of her at the slightest suggestion, and is also wanted for streaking through the town in the first place. Either way, this act of manipulation kicks off a Christmas montage. Jack is helping up set up for the Christmas dance, nearly killing this man in the process by slowly dragging paper trees towards him, and Gretchen puts a snowman's head in her mouth. No, not that one. But just when things are going well, this man Jack jumps on the first instance of Gretchen insinuating that he's good looking.
It's nice, it's good looking.
Wait,
I,
you think I'm good looking?
well, everyone does. I mean, the whole town loves you.
The whole town loves me, and you're in town.
Stop right there. Okay, sorry, I used the wrong word.
Dude is trying to logic trap her into sleeping with him, and it's even grosser because he's approaching it like a child with no concept of romance. In the ensuing argument, the movie attempts to interrogate the idea that before you love someone else, you have to learn to love yourself.
I am not convinced that I can really love someone right now because I'm not convinced I have figured out how to love myself without Paul.
Of course, that would require a strong, independent female lead to be part of the plot, and Jack the Magic Snowman spends the entire movie just fixing all of her problems for her, so you can just forget about that for right now. The important thing to take away from this scene is that they're friends now, obviously angling towards something more than that. And that means that the movie does have to unfortunately deal with those pesky real crimes that he did commit the first night before we can move forward. They resolve the breaking and entering in the next scene, or I guess attempt to, because Jack has apparently used Gretchen's credit card to buy replacement glass for the shop that he broke into. He helps them install it and even confesses to being the one who broke in and stole the stuff in the first place. But surprisingly, or unsurprisingly for this movie, they aren't mad in the slightest, because it's Christmas and no one can be mad on Christmas.
So you're not mad?
Nobody can be mad at Christmas. You needed help, you did what you had to, and now you're making it right.
You okay now?
I am. Kathy's taking care of me.
They even play dumb when the cops come back to question them again, just to protect Jack, because they want Gretchen to get laid so badly. You would think that the streaking charge would be a little bit harder to just write off, but the movie has a clever little trick it does, where it just repeatedly mentions that the woman who was flashed actually enjoyed it, so it's not a problem at all.
I'm not sure. Let's investigate.
And Ethel? No, she wouldn't say. Just kept insisting that he was doing a public service.
Ethel couldn't describe him?
Oh, she could, but we needed a description of his face.
I don't know. Seems weird to me, but if the writers didn't care, I don't see why I should either. Okay, I'm gonna start going rapid fire because the script is getting a little bit long, and there's only like 2 more things that really happen in this movie, so let's get into it. Back at the school, Jack is creeping on a couple of children who are asking each other to the dance when he gets the idea to ask Gretchen to come with him as a chaperone. For some reason, this leads him to ask Detective Charles Boyle for advice on dating. I don't know why him of all people, they haven't even really spoken, really. But they do practice dancing and kissing on each other for a little while, so I guess that's nice. Now, when he finally does ask Gretchen to the dance, he goes incel mode at the first sign of resistance.
Jack,
Oh, of course. You're already going with someone else, huh?
Cutting her off mid-sentence.
So Mrs. Johnson orders today's lunch special.
Okay,
and then
I'm sorry for interrupting, but I have to ask you a question.
Women love that. Then says he wants to stand tall with her for just one night.
For once, I just want to stand tall with you. Even if it's just for one night.
I think he's talking about his dick there. So of course, she says yes.
yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes!
I will go.
That leads to a Pretty Woman montage that doesn't really make any sense at all, so we'll just skip it. Now it's time for the dance, and Jack reveals that he also bought her a necklace with her own money. He says she can return it if she wants because it's very expensive. And I'd say, yeah, it glows blue like cesium-137. I have no doubt that it's very expensive.
It's a snowflake because I am a snowman.
I got that part.
But I can't even hate it. Like, buying my wife her Christmas presents is basically doing the same thing because all the money is basically the same, so I don't know. I guess it is what it is at some point. Anyway, they head to the dance. It looks atrocious. The turnout is terrible as well. But the same kid he was creeping on earlier asked for advice on how to dance with his date. So Jack, having learned from Detective Charles Boyle, asks him to follow he and Gretchen as they show him how to dance. Now, finally, a full hour in, Gretchen and Jack are as close as they've been this entire time. They're slow dancing. They're finally exchanging some vaguely flirty banter between each other.
Well, I don't want to melt. You're giving up a lot of heat right now.
Oh, am I?
The music is swelling and they hug a little bit. It is unacceptable to me the lengths that this movie goes to pitch itself as a raunchy snowman adventure, and then is so committed to having zero physical intimacy for the first full hour of movie time. It only gets worse from here though, because after a flash mob gets Jack super wet, but not like that, the pair have a heart-to-heart outside the dance where he attempts to warm her up with his super sexy ice-cold hands before leaning in for a fake-out kiss. Gretchen Weiners asks the question we're all asking, which is why. He comes back with some BS about how he's on borrowed time and he doesn't want to leave her just like her stupid late husband did. That sounds stupid to me, but Gretchen Weiners rewards this romantic sentiment with another climactic hug.
I thought you were a hugger.
Make an exception.
Meanwhile, I guess Doug Judy just remembered that there are security cameras around. He finally decides to check them, and now that he's got his man, he waits in the diner at the bathroom for the perfect moment to make his entrance. But when he finally steps out of the bathroom to accuse Jack of committing all these crimes, everyone in the town laughs and mocks him, saying that it's ridiculous that he waited in the bathroom and that he's wearing sunglasses inside. And it's at this point where he just snaps.
Enough! I'm out there every day working for you, keeping you safe. And what do I get? Never a thank you. Always some giggles. Patronizing remark.
He goes on and on about how nobody takes him seriously, about how all he does is try and keep the town safe. And honestly, this scene feels so out of place here because for the entire rest of the movie, these police officers have been comic relief, joke characters, and now it's getting a little authoritarian in here. Still, Jack says he broke the law and needs to accept the consequences, which is true. And I don't know how to feel about this movie making me side with the police officers, but whatever. But once Jack is arrested, the whole town loses their collective mind. The doctor from earlier proclaims that Jack is a snowman that's come to life, and everyone in the town just kind of gets on board. Gretchen echoes the audience sentiment, saying, wait, you guys just all kind of just buy that he's a living snowman?
What do you mean, different?
He's a snowman that magically came to life.
Explains why he's so comfortable without a shirt on.
So, you just buy that he's a snowman?
It's Christmas.
Again, the only explanation anyone has for this is, it's Christmas, so that's cool. Not really an answer, but Gretchen finally believes, I guess, is what happens here, and she runs off to the station to save Jack. At the station, Doug Judy tells Jack that he's not going to slip through his crack before telling Gretchen that bail is $2,000 and that he can be bailed out on the 26th of December. 2 full days later. Gretchen, now believing that Jack is a snowman, knows that he will melt long before that and begs the sheriff to reconsider. Now the sheriff makes another good point here, saying she's lucky he doesn't lock her up for obstruction of justice for harboring this fugitive all this time.
You knew all along he was the criminal. You're lucky I don't lock you up for obstruction of justice.
You're lucky I don't punch you in the face.
Before she threatens to physically assault him, so I guess he's not really that hard on crime if he's just letting all this slide, but what do I know? While this is happening, Jack is clearly having a medical emergency in his cell, while the sheriff writes him off as a sleeper agent. Gretchen then leaves to go back to the diner to grab whatever money she can, and an angry mob follows her and Detective Charles Boyle back to the station to confront Doug Judy. They accost Sheriff Doug Judy for holding this known criminal under bail, because obviously he's a snowman come to life and he should know better, to be honest. Now the sheriff has moved a little bit, says he's okay with releasing him tonight, but he can't let him go without bail. So they pass around a hat to collect money from the whole town in order to have enough to set him free. But they're still about $10 short. That's when Sheriff Doug Judy's heretofore unknown son, who is also the child that Jack has been interacting with at the middle school, comes to hand in $10 to make bail. Then, in the most, oh shit, it's not clear what point we're trying to make here, moment in cinema history, the sheriff asks 2 questions, asking the crowd to please spell out the meaning of this movie.
This man did a bad thing. Why are you helping him?
Because he's my friend.
How is it so many people decided to waste Christmas on a guy who just got here less than 2 weeks ago?
Because ever since he got here, he's been working to make our lives better.
That's the woman who crashed her car because she was so horny for this man, I'm pretty sure. Then Detective Charles Boyle snaps his fingers in an aha moment and says,
A man is defined by his actions.
Here's the opportunity for you to be defined by yours.
My favorite part about this scene is when Detective Charles Boyle snaps his fingers and says, a man is defined by his actions. When I watched this movie the first time through, I had no idea what he was talking about. It seemed like he, honest to God, was asked during the filming of this scene to come up with a reason that the sheriff might change his mind, or to persuade the sheriff in real time. But what it actually is a callback to a throwaway line right before the Carousel of Aviators bit, where Sheriff Doug Judy says the same exact thing.
A man is defined by his actions, Ed. And now, it's time to take action. Bring this man to justice.
Of course, I only caught this going basically frame by frame on my rewatch, so I don't know how anyone was expected to remember this, because it was such a random thing to have thrown in there at the end. So yeah, this last scene honestly feels like they were scrambling to get an ending together and just decided to spell out everything for the audience. Regardless of how poorly written it is, this moment inspires the sheriff to return everyone's money and let Jack out in a prisoner release moment with injustice levels rivaling that of Barabbas. While the town celebrates, Gretchen and the police officers run in to find Jack unresponsive in his cell. They drag him out into the snow, where it becomes clear that the movie has made the curious choice to have a white man die due to the incompetence of a black police officer. Gretchen Weiners attempts to wake him.
I am falling in love with you. don't care how long it lasts. I don't care how fleeting it is. I just make the most of it while you're here.
While others urge the doctor to do something.
Come on, you're a doctor, do something.
Do what? You can't defibrillate a snowman.
But she seems married to this idea that this man is a living snowman and has thus decided that our human first aid is going to be completely ineffective on him, so why even bother? The doctor then declares Jack dead without even touching him and tries to pull Gretchen away.
Kathy, he's gone.
Before after an hour and 20 minutes, the first kiss of the movie happens as she leans in to lock lips with this child she met the day he was born while he lies dead in the snow. But then, as the whole town prepares to abandon the corpse, he springs back to life.
Kathy?
And even better, he can now feel the cold on his skin.
I'm cold. You believe it?
Does this mean?
I don't know. I think it means I'm a real...
He's a real boy now for some reason. Hooray! Now he can bang his mommy girlfriend forever! Woohoo! Gross. But also, he gets cold like just once, and everyone accepts that he's just a real boy now. No one even stops to think for a second that maybe that means he was lying about being a fucking snowman that has come to life to get out of a crime and maybe even pocket the bail money when it's returned to Gretchen. God, these people in this town are so stupid. Anyway, then they kiss for the first time while he's alive, and everyone else starts very chastely hugging and kissing their significant others on the cheek. And that's basically the end of the movie. There's a bit at the end where you can tell the writers forgot they set up this whole you can't love someone until you know how to love yourself bit, so they try and show her learning to fix the house, but it all happens after her and Jack get together, so it's all meaningless anyway. And then they share one last kiss before heading off to Hawaii, because it's true. Every snowman loves the summer. Olaf, the first snowman, this guy, they love it. And that's all the movie they made. Okay, so let's wrap this up with my main takeaways from the film. The biggest issue with this movie, I think, is that he's a baby man who falls in love with a fully grown adult human woman. And not only that, but everyone in town is super aggressively lusting over him all the time. We've seen plenty of examples of that. I think the movie, for some reason, thinks that that's part of its charm, but it's not. That being said, as horny as this movie claims to be, there are only 3 kisses in it, and they're all within the last 5 minutes of the movie, so what's up with that? At that point, what are we even doing here, you know? But the worst part of all is that nothing happens in this movie, and I'm not really even sure what the moral of the story is supposed to be. They briefly touched on the idea that before you love someone else, you have to learn how to love yourself, which they completely abandoned because it's only after he becomes a real boy that she learns how to fix the house on her own. And the crime element of the story isn't really coherent at all. Everyone hates the police for trying to track down a man who flashed a couple in the street, smashed a shop window, and then stole merchandise in a town that hasn't seen a murder in over 100 years. Why isn't anyone upset about it? And why is everyone rolling their eyes at the police all the time for trying to catch a known criminal? Whatever. All the bad things aside, I do think that Lacey Chabert does a great job of making you believe that she's falling in love, even if you want her thrown in jail for doing so. Craig Robinson and Joe De La Trulio are consummate professionals. They make every scene that they're in super entertaining, and even though they're not in this movie much, that still applies. Even Dustin Milligan, who plays Jack, is a pretty believable romantic lead once he drops the baby snowman act. I think they just poisoned that well for me early on and couldn't win me back by the end. I know it's hard to make a movie, but there were so many questionable decisions made here that I'd have to agree with Luke Westaway from Mom Can't Cook when he says that it seems like there were tons of emergency rewrites when Netflix hit the panic button after they found out they had a super horny Frosty movie on their hands. Whatever the case, thank you so much for coming along this journey with me. My name has been Aaron Trevino. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season, however you celebrate. Our goal for the channel is to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you enjoyed the video today, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hey, share with a friend. Also check out my gaming channel and stream Iffy by Jet, my brother. Until next time, stay warm, and if a stranger comes up to you saying they're a snowman come to life, maybe just walk away. That's all from me. I'll see you guys later.